we go. All right, so welcome to chARTer. As a show of hands, did anybody come 2 years ago? Got a couple people from 2 years ago. Good. So we have a really good group here today. You're going to hear a couple folks talk, get a chance to interact in one-on-one with a lot of the different panelists from a lot of different creative disciplines that are out there. We got some of your Q&A questions that were sort of pre-submitted, and those are the ones that we're using specifically for the panel discussion here in a little bit. But this first hour is going to be myself, and then Ryan Maybaugh is going to come up and speak to you a little bit as well. So first thing I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about the day. So I'm Justin Winget. Yep, that guy. So if you're wondering, like, okay, like, you know, how do I get in his shoes? This is me when I was 17 years old, working at Buehler's. Everybody's been to Buehler's, I assume, right? Yeah. Lead carry out, actually. Wear that with pride. Still bag my own groceries, too, you know, when I go to the schools. I was also Rowdy Rider, fun fact, 1999. Andy Lorson, who's on the panel, led the Orville Red Riders and Ryan to a championship. I cheered very loud on the sidelines. I knocked a couple cameramen over with a flag. It's awesome. Formerly a highway cone swiper, so I did that in college for a summer out in Colorado. I also was a computer lab desk attendant for a little bit. I also worked at Best Buy for a summer, restocking shelves. I also shout out to Paul Obernger here, my first boss. He's actually in the house, graphic design intern at Unigraphics. There's me with very yellow hair. Not really sure what's going on in that picture. I worked at Pottery Barn for 2 days when I first moved to Chicago. And I quit Pottery Barn because the Gap came and said, we will give you $1 more an hour. So I moved over to the Gap. My first job coming out of college was a small agency called Creative Commune in Chicago. So I worked there 9 to 5, hustled down to the Gap, usually worked at the Gap then from 6 to 11. I mean, literally 60 hours a week. It was crazy. I quit the Gap because it was too much work. So I went and manned the front desk at a tennis club. And this is after college. I finally then got a break, and I was a graphic designer at Levy Restaurants. We'll talk about that job here in a couple minutes. But I'm just showing you my journey. Then I was a senior graphic designer at Levy Restaurants. I was at Levy for 13 years. And then I was a creative director at Levy Restaurants. And then moved to Ohio State, where I was the AVP of Creative and Multimedia for the Ohio State University. And now I am the creative director for the San Antonio Spurs down in San Antonio, Texas. So I know it's hard to make the leap between where you are at right now in your journey, but the reason that I started with that slide is to show that it truly is a journey, and you can start as a bag boy, bag girl at Buehler's and ultimately get there. So I grew up loving art, some of my best work. Anybody know who that is, by the way? But none of you. Yeah, Bertie Kosar, the man, right? But I struggled through school. Anybody else struggle? Yeah, it's tough. Because I spent most of my time drawing race cars on my homework. That's actually a drawing of a race car. Anybody know who's, actually, that would be like extra bonus points if you know whose race car that is. Anybody? Bobby Rahal. Yeah, I know. The nice thing about coming home, I'm able to go through some of my, old files and things like that, like, that my mom still has stashed away that we've never really thrown away. These are some of my grade cards when I was a kid. So easily distracted, socializes too much. I need to work on listening and sitting still. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Yeah, a lot of creative folks in the room. I've never really met too many creative folks that are really good at sitting still. So in 1999, I graduated from this high school, Orville High School, 76th in a class of 150, which is pretty ironic, right? Like, it's literally one spot below average. Now, 30 years later, I'm still distracted by race cars. It's one of my things, it's kind of a hobby. I do a lot of photography on the side. You know, obviously do design work for the Spurs, but have gotten connected with a couple folks in the industry. And it's one of my creative respites, actually, to go out and shoot photography, shoot racing. That's me at Texas Motor Speedway this summer. That car that was going by was going roughly 200 miles an hour. Probably shouldn't tell my mom that I was that close to that car going 200 miles an hour, but I was. So, an unexpected question for all of you today. What do you doodle on the side of your math homework? Because the real answers to the test might just be in those margins. So, a little bit about today. There are no tests. Doodling is actually encouraged. I'd love to see whatever everybody draws. Previous years, we've had some really fun stuff. People have drawn like little characters of panelists, and they've ended up getting posted on their social media pages and things. We do ask, though, that you be present. You know, we have a number of professionals here who've taken time out of their busy schedules specifically to be with you all, to pay it forward, you know, to help guide your journeys. And you have the chance, I mean, this is a really cool opportunity for everybody to have both hear some of this group interaction, but then also get some of the one-to-one, you know, interaction and conversation. So, you know, we really ask that you take advantage of it, that you be inquisitive, and you be present. So, why did we start chARTer? It's actually a sad story. In March of 2013, my wife and I lost our second son, stillborn at 38 weeks. It's awful, really awful. And people asked us, hey, what can we do? You know, this is this terrible sort of situation. And, you know, we were like, okay, like people wanted to donate money and help, and, you know, how can we create some sort of cause or scholarship or something? And I said, you know, I love that idea, but I want to impact as many people as possible. I don't just want to impact one student, you know, with a scholarship to go to school. I want to impact all of folks like you who are here who, you know, really walked a mile or are walking a mile in the shoes that, you know, myself and these other panelists. So, you know, that's my late father. He helped me start this, but we asked the question, you know, can we do something for kids like me? And when he says kids like me, he refers to that kid that, you know, spends their time doodling on the side of their math homework, who really have a creative superpower but aren't quite sure how to harness it. So that's what this day is all about. So at a point in time, I was, you know, kids like you. I think all of the other panelists here were kids like you. So we've all been there. So really, chARTer, at the end of the day, is lemonade. You know, how do you take lemons and make lemonade? That's what this program is really all about. So we asked a couple questions. What would have been helpful for us in high school to learn about the creative career path options, to ask successful creatives for advice, to learn about college programs with creative focus. You know, you get a chance to interact later today with a number of different colleges and universities with, you know, different creative focuses. Take advantage of that. To ease fears about ending up as a starving artist. Has anybody heard that? Yes, everybody. So let's start right there with the elephant in the room. We'll see.
We used to love going out with Julia and Mike, but since they bought their new house...
Which menu am I looking at here?
Start with tapas.
Has anybody seen this commercial?
Tapas.
Get out of town.
It's like eating dinner with your parents.
Sandra, are you in school?
Yes, I'm in art school.
Oh, wow. So have you thought about how you're going to make money?
At least
Okay,
we're
we're
learning
gonna
some
stop
new
it right
things.
there.
We
'cause
bundled
that's
our home and
ridiculous.
auto with Progressive. Saved a bunch. Oh, we got a wobbler.
Progressive can't protect you from becoming
gonna
your
make me go
parents,
through the
but we
whole
can protect
commercial.
your home and auto.
I saw this commercial a
Yeah,
couple
many
weeks ago for the first time, and it literally made me cringe. I was angry, but I was like, I'm going to rip this commercial off of their YouTube page, which I did illegally. and put it in my presentation. Oh, there we go. So, the question, right? Are you going to be a starving artist? I think that is a big part of today and why so many folks who are incredibly successful in their careers have joined you here today, is to show you there really and truly is a path. And there are so many different paths forward. Fast Company magazine, great business magazine, really well-regarded business magazine, talked about creativity in one of the recent issues, and they said 60% of CEOs value creativity as their most valued trait, and that's in an employer. So what do they look for in their employers? Creativity and creative thinking. That's the world we live in today. So I have a question for you, and this is something I want everybody to explore today. What are your wildest dreams? As a kid, I had some pretty big, crazy dreams. I dreamed of running out of the tunnel at Ohio Stadium as a Buckeye. Now, unfortunately, I think Andy can attest to this. When I was like a freshman in high school, I think I was like 4'11", like 110 pounds or something like that. And Andy was much bigger, and he ran over me in practice, and I said, I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. But I still did get to run out of the tunnel at Ohio Stadium on a football Saturday a number of times. Check that off. I wanted to, as a kid, play alongside Heisman Trophy winners. Yep, that's Eddie George. Check that off. Worked with him, did a photo shoot, was talking to a couple folks here before about some experiences with that. And then, after I was done with Ohio State, I was like, I'm going to go play for the Browns. Yep, got a chance to do that too. Check. I wanted to drive really, really fast. This should be no surprise to anybody based on my first couple slides. There's me at the Richard Petty Driving Academy. Check that off the list. And I wanted to leave a legacy at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the holy grail of motorsports. Yep, check that off the list too. So, you're going to see a number of these slides, get used to them. When you see the big flashing gaudy lights, that means there's a lesson coming up. So lesson number 1, never lose sight of your childhood dreams, even if they take a different shape over time. Now, I've got a painful memory to share. I got cut from the yearbook team in high school. I did not make it. I was very sad. I said, if I can't make the yearbook, should I even try? It's like my Michael Jordan moment. Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team. I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jordan, but I am. I'm not still salty about it at all. I've totally moved past it. We're over it. Nor did I get accepted into my first choice school, which I'm not going to tell you what school that is, but you might be able to figure it out. And my first job after I graduated college was mowing my parents' yard for 6 months while I got rejected over 200 times. Then once I did finally find a design job in Chicago, had no benefits. It paid $1 an hour more than my job at the Gap. And my boss at the time called me an average designer at best. I was ready to quit. Which leads, flashing lights. Justin's lesson number 2. Don't let anyone else define you or try to squash your lofty goals. Those are your dreams, your aspirations. You will find in life people will try to drag you down, try to squash your goals, try to compartmentalize you, fit you into their box. Don't do it. So in 2004, I had a life-altering conversation. It was with a gentleman named Eric Rickabaugh down in Columbus. Eric had done several really prominent identity systems for the Ohio State University, a number of other sports teams. It's the place I wanted to work. You know, I was in college and I was like, that's where I want to go work. That's where I want to go get a job. Just even getting the chance to interview with him was awesome. He started the conversation by saying, I am not going to hire you. Okay, that's great. He said, but come back to me in 5 years with a book that someone like me would want to see And that naturally led me to Wisconsin. So when he said, come back to me in 5 years, what that meant was he wasn't ready to hire somebody that green out of college. He wanted somebody with some experience, but relevant experience in the industry. So when I say it led me to Wisconsin, what I actually did was took his advice to heart. He said, go out, volunteer your time and talents. Don't just go volunteer for anybody, but do it for places and organizations that will help you build that portfolio that you need to then come back, in a couple of years. So what I did is I got connected with a couple of semi-professional baseball teams, a baseball league up in Wisconsin. I basically said, hey, I would love to work with you all, design your identities, design your uniforms, things like that, and help me really build that book. This project propelled my career. I can't stress that. I would not be where I'm at if I hadn't taken the initiative and said, I'm going to take his advice to heart. I'm going to build a portfolio that I know is going to lead to the next job and the next job and the next job. So I never ended up getting that job with Rickaball, but things have a way of working out. So for 13 years, I was a creative director for Levy Restaurants. Levy's based out of Chicago. You probably haven't heard of Levy, but you've probably eaten their foods. This is the map, at least from a couple years ago, of Levy's venues. You can see all of the different sports and entertainment organizations that they work with, doing everything from concessions to suites to retail, really all of those things. So I got incredible exposure. But the thing that led to my job at Levy were the projects, and that project volunteering my time. Levy took me to some wild places over my 13 years, more racetracks. See a theme here. It's Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is a wild, crazy idea we kind of dreamed up and we pitched to IMS. They haven't done it yet, but they're still very excited about it. It has a go-kart track and a lazy river and food trucks and a volleyball court. It's pretty awesome. I still don't know why they haven't done it yet, but met Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon told me, my buddy and I went up to him and said, Jeff, you must get this all the time, but can we do a shake and bake with you? Does everybody get that reference? Yeah, okay, good. I was like, I don't know. And he said, you're the first people that have ever asked me that. And I was like, what? Nobody has ever asked Jeff Gordon to do a shake and bake? That's crazy. That is crazy. So we were the first people apparently and we did a double shake and bake. Can anybody name who we're getting photobombed by there in the back of the picture? Yes, Martina Navratilova. That's my favorite thing about this picture. It's like the randomest picture in the history of random pictures. Why am I with Jeff Gordon getting photobombed by Martina Navratilova? I have no idea. We did a lot of work for ski resorts. This is Squaw Valley, doing a restaurant out in Squaw Valley, Rocker at Squaw. Got to work with Julie Mancuso, former Olympian, on this. That was pretty cool. We actually, when we opened this restaurant, we had one of their athletes jump out of a plane, fly in, parachute. He brought the key. It was awesome. Just some things we did there, some pieces of collateral. Got to work with some really ironic, not ironic, ironic works, I guess. Iconic ballparks, Wrigley Field in Chicago. This is the retail experience that we developed for them several years ago. Some signage for concessions, dessert cart, everybody loves dessert. We got to work for NFL stadiums, I think it was CenturyLink Field. I think it's something else now out in Seattle. These are some concessions that I did a number of years ago. And then just up the road in Detroit, Ford Field. These are premium concessions. Actually, the first slide is the rendering. The second slide is how it actually then sort of came to life. I'm going to go through these really fast. Sorry, I got a lot to go through. We helped get a few new venues off the ground. Barclays Center in Brooklyn. New Falcon Stadium down in Atlanta. T-Mobile Arena out in Las Vegas, home of the Knights. Some programming. And I also taught myself while I was at Levy a new discipline. I went on a photo shoot once, and we did some food photography. And I kind of spent most of my time more like studying what the photographer was doing. I was like, I can do that. So I basically self-taught as a food photographer. Learning lighting, learning compositions, totally different animal than like photographing cars at 200 miles an hour. Like that piece of cake does not move at all. Met some familiar faces. Anybody know who that is? Come on, somebody, right? Yeah, Paul Sr. You know, I shook his hand and it was like, I've never seen like emptier eyes in my life. It's weird. So we did a restaurant with the Orange County Choppers in Kansas City several years ago. Paul can't answer this. Who knows who that is? Don't answer. Rick Nielsen, frontman for Cheap Trick. Let me in to go. I've been in the randomest places. Like I was in Rick Nielsen's basement playing his guitar. He actually, when I was there, he brought out a baggie, and it still had the ponytail that he cut off in like 1975. It was the weird. I was like, I gotta get out of here. But hands down, you know, when I think about my time at Levy, the reason I stayed at Levy for 13 years was the people. And these are a number of folks. There's me trying to cut my old boss's head off with an axe. This is just at a retreat we did. You know, it was some of the best people I've ever met, the best people I've ever worked with. So that leads to Justin's life lesson number 3. Surround yourself with passionate and talented people, those who bring out the best in you and push you to accomplish the unimaginable. And those were the people I worked with at Levy. But all good times must come to an end. So in 2016, I left the Levy nest for my dream job at Ohio State. Closer to family and friends back in Ohio, great salary and pension program, great. High profile work for a brand I love, yes. Field pass at Ohio Stadium, awesome. Cruise control for 20 years towards retirement, yes. That was the plan. What could possibly go wrong? Here's where the meme portion of my presentation starts to kick in a little bit. While at Ohio State, re-envisioned the alumni magazine, some work we did there, created the University PSA series. I don't know if you all watch the Ohio State games, it's the commercial that plays, advertising, that commercial about, I think, the Wilson Flores one. It's like, hi, my name is Wilson Flores. If anybody's seen that, yep, that was part of this. Developed annual giving programs for Ohio State. I was in university marketing. It actually rolled up to advancement, which is the fundraising arm of university. So here's some, you know, fun little program we did to actually get folks to interact, build their little, you know, Buckeye. So it's fun. Also got to cover football Saturdays. That was pretty awesome, I have to say. This photo was taken after the Penn State game, I think 2 years ago. Still one of my favorite photos. So, you know, supported folks across the university on social media, but I was miserable. And this sort of sums it up. If anybody has seen, I don't know if some of these memes are relevant to this audience or just my audience. That's Office Space. It's a great movie if you haven't seen it. Kind of the joke about TPS reports. That sort of sums up my career at Ohio State. You know, it was great on paper, but at the end of the day, it was just a lot of administrative stuff. So in 2017, I remember my wife said, "You hate it, don't you?" No, I'm fine. Everything is fine. I love it. This is my dream job. It's perfect. It's perfect. But as time went on, you know, just it got more laborious, and you know, I just felt farther and farther away from what, you know, I was good at. Spent more time, I think, in Excel than I did in any of the creative programs. So my wife came again in 2018, and she said, "Come on, you hate it, don't you?" And at that time, things were really starting to boil over. Yep, I hate it. That was really hard. That was really hard for me to admit. So I just made the decision, you know what, I've got to leave. I've got to get out of here. So this leads me to October 1st last year. I had already sort of made the decision. I wanted to leave. I was ready to go. I needed to feel creative again, though. I had been in this job that was sort of, not great for me personally, and I wasn't getting the chance to be creative. So every October morning, and this is last October, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I snapped a picture of the sunrise. I went to different places around, Columbus. I needed to reconnect with myself. I needed to grieve. I hadn't done that. A couple of years prior, I'd lost my father. A couple of years prior to that, I had lost, a son. A couple of years prior to that, I'd lost another son, and I don't know that I had ever really dealt with that. I'm just going to leave that one there. I needed to reflect on the good and realign my priorities. It's my wife and daughter. I tried to slow down and see beauty in the world again. I found this and that. Pretty awesome. I had to realize that Ohio State was not my dream job. People would talk to me. I'd meet people on the street. I'd tell them what I do, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, you have the best job ever. Can I have your job? And I'm like, yes, you can have it. I don't want it. It's all yours. But that was really hard to make peace with. It was really hard because of the expectations that I had put on the job, but then also, I had these outside influences like, how can you not love this job? I felt lost. I was angry. I was hurt. I was lonely. And I was really scared of the future. I did not know what was next. I'd lost my confidence, but long walks in the woods sometimes have a way of bringing things back. They help cleanse my soul and prepare me for that road ahead. And that road led to a very unexpected place. It all happened really fast. San Antonio, Texas. I'd only been to San Antonio a handful of times in my life. My wife had actually never been to San Antonio. I interviewed on October 22nd of last year. They called me the next day and offered me the job on October 23rd. We were headed to Texas. And this is our family and friends. I think still, literally. I'll tell people, oh, what? Where do you live? We live in Texas. Yeah, great. So this one actually has a lot of life lessons. And I think, one of the lessons is sometimes it's the worst experiences you go through that you get the biggest lessons from. Listen to your intuition. And I say that because I didn't listen to my intuition when I went to Ohio State. There were a lot of red flags during the interview process that I just ignored because I'm like, oh, it's Ohio State, right? But looking back, I probably should have never gone there in the first place. Dream jobs actually don't exist. And I don't want you to feel like I'm squashing a dream for you. And I think everybody can probably attest to this. Even the best jobs out there, even that one that you're just like, oh, I would love to work there. I promise you, there is a mess behind that curtain. Am I right? Am I right? Yes. Every job has good days and bad days. But do not stay in a job with more bad days than good days. And that self-assigned creative work is the best medicine. So, if you look back when I was right out of college, I gave myself the project of designing those identities. When last year, I was just in a crazy rut. I gave myself the project of waking up at 5 a.m. because I knew what I needed to feel better, to make that next step in my career. Moving's terrible, especially moving in January. I would not recommend that in Ohio. But also the cold is terrible. It is very cold here. My blood is thinned out. There's the weather forecast in San Antonio, Texas today. #winning. This is my buddy Timmy. Timmy made the trek with me. Timmy, I don't know if did anybody notice Timmy when they came in? Timmy, it's Timmy on the shelf. We don't do Elf on the Shelf. We do Timmy on the shelf here. So Timmy's been a lot of places. Timmy kept me company going down to Texas. And then 23 hours of driving later, Timmy was home. And so was I. So, what does the creative director for the San Antonio Spurs do on a day-to-day basis? In my year, I've gotten to retire 2 Spurs legends. I'm going to ask, who knows who that is? Manu Ginobili. Yes, Manu. Manu. Some selfie signs out in front for his retirement night. Shooting shirts that the team actually wore for his night. That was the giveaway item for some signage around the arena. Digital signage. And then most recently, just a few weeks ago, actually, we retired another Spurs legend, Tony Parker. He was the third of the big 3. 3 years ago, they retired Tim Duncan. Last year, Manu. And this year, Tony. So interesting time to be with the Spurs organization, to say the least. Some social graphics for the night. That was the giveaway item that was on every seat in the arena. And actually, you'll see in the raffle today, I don't know if anybody saw the giveaways. For participating today, there's a lot of really good stuff on the table. There's a couple of these shirts too. It's pretty cool. Some signage on the Jumbotron. Shooting shirts, again, DeMar DeRozan. Also got a chance to develop a playoff campaign last year. Some signage or giveaway items. It's our hype squad dancing. Got to work with them on some uniforms. More shooting shirts. Arena graphics. Social graphics. Also have done a couple cool retail collaborations. San Antonio has a huge Hispanic population. So we did a line specifically for Hispanic Heritage Month this year. This is some of the photos of the collection that we created. Also last year got to produce a season ticket membership campaign. I'm going to play another video. Hopefully it doesn't screw my thing up here.
These are our seats. Feet from the court and miles from common. Line of sight, sideline, second family beside mine. Order up, sitting down every minute my prime time. But past the perks, behind every spot-lit benefit for any fan to sit is a bond none can unseat. So while you watch from the couch, here's where we'll be. Locked in and logged out.
Some billboard signage around town. We also did a schedule release this past year. Schedule releases are big in pro sports, so it's when your season schedule gets announced. So in our case, it was in the summer. The big thing is cultural relevance and trying to, both do something that represents the team, but also the community in general. So what we did for our schedule release this last year, has anybody ever played Loteria? Yeah, I didn't think so. Oh, Loteria, there we go, great. I think there's even some Loteria decks in some of the bags. I don't know if all of them have them in there. That was another giveaway. What we did was created a Spurs Loteria.
Deep in the heart of Tejas, in historic San Antonio, the Spurs Coyote takes a break from his usual antics to craft the perfect Spurs schedule. And what's that he's using? Why, it's a fresh deck of precision-printed Spurs Loteria cards, the new way to turn any household into home court. Looks like he's
Tried to get my
finishing
daughter
up.
to play Little
So
Coyote.
without
She was
further
not
ado,
interested.
here it is, the official 2019-20 Spurs season schedule.
This goes on for a little bit. I'll just do this. Each one of these is a month, and obviously you guys figured that out. When we did the Spurs Loteria, what was fun is we actually gamified it, and on the Spurs app, fans could go and create their own Spurs deck of Loteria board. So it was a way to get fans involved where they could try to guess the first 16 games of the season. Nobody guessed it right, to no surprise. But, it was one of those, it met a need of, did something fun, creative, engaged our fans. But, on the business side, we got a ton of data. And that's a really important thing. And help drive ticket sales as well. So fun and clever, but ultimately there really is a business goal tied to this. I know it's still going. It goes for a little bit. It's my daughter's Fiesta sash right there. She was very mad that I took it.
And there you have it, the official 2019-2020 Spurs season schedule. Stay tuned to purchase tickets and learn how you can get your paws on a Spurs Loteria set, the official card game of the San Antonio Spurs.
All right, there's what the actual board looked like. I also had the chance this season, this was like really my first regular season, so had the chance to lead the development around Spurs Media Day, set design, and actually constructing a set. What's interesting is everybody thinks like, oh, you must interact with the players and stuff all the time. We get 8 minutes with the players a year during Media Day. We do some other stuff sort of random, but that is the only guaranteed time. So you have to be incredibly efficient and planful about how you're going to use those 8 minutes, because those are the assets when you're watching a game on TV. They're collected all during Media Day. So here's us shooting, directing, DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, Patty Mills. And then this was also my first season to build out a regular season campaign. So looking at what some of the billboards around town looks like, building out a lot of social templates and toolkits. The interesting thing, the Spurs, we post something like 20 pieces a day on social media. In order to do that, you have to be incredibly buttoned up. So the off season is actually the creative, regular season. Sorry. All of the templates and toolkits and things like that you see posted, you're like, how do they do that so fast? Well, they do it in the summer, and then they drop in photos during the game. Some bobbleheads, that's DeMar. And this was pretty cool, and I don't know that the video quite does it justice, but it was an opportunity to work on the game open video. What that video is, it's what plays right before the starting lineups. So here's the Spurs open. All right, so this leads us to the last lesson, Justin's lesson number 8. What I want everybody to do is repeat after me. This is literally what we do with my daughter every night as she goes to bed. I'm brave. I'm smart. I am strong. I can do anything. And I love myself. Thank you.